Okay, well, that's the importance of male friendships. This will be interesting. This one.
All right, let's try it. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Professor and the Prophet Show. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of male friendships.
Oh yeah, that word friendship. Oh boy, it's got 1,001 different meanings, hasn't it?
And the 48 Laws of Power says that you've got more to fear from friends than what you have from enemies. And if you don't have any enemies, find a way to make them. And I just want to quickly, as we start this show, talk about something I mentioned to a friend of mine yesterday. He was he likes the idea of being a dictator. And I said to him, well, you know what? The best thing you could do if you did get into power, the first person that you really want to kill would be me. And I'll tell you why. I'm a very good friend of yours, and everyone would really fear you if they thought, well, oh my God, he's willing to kill his best and dearest friend of 20 years. Imagine what he would do to the rest of us. You know?
Well, many quotes come to mind from many different people about friends, right? And some of them are my own as well. And I'll start off with one of my own. An enemy is a friend that you said no to. Okay? Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, one of his famous quotes: friends are as close as letting people believe they're right. That's a classic.
There's a whole set of behaviors.
If you're going to get shot in the back, it'll be from a friend. Okay, yeah. There's another good quote.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole set of behaviors that you need to engage in if you are to become friends with a person or with a group of people. And you could call those grooming behaviors, if you like. But generally speaking, I think what happens is that people see or come into contact with other people who either share common interests, or there's something about that person where you know that you could become friends with them if you were able to interact with them. And it's I think it comes back to common interests and similar mindsets. And we tend not to have friends, for instance, that are very, very different to us, and they've got completely different lifestyles, completely different beliefs. Although it can happen. I've met people. I'm on the record as a staunch atheist, and I maintain some friendships with some very religious people. But there's things that we've put in place in our friendship to make sure, based on things that have happened.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When I look back at my life, I'm getting on now, I'm closing in on 50, and I think back at friendships, I can actually see now how many of them were not friendships. They were what I was imagining to be a friendship. Now, I've got a few people in my life that are very dear to me, and I've known them some 20 years, some 30 years, some more. I've got many people that friendships are around the 5-year mark, and I guess you could say they're yet to be tested through their ups and downs and my ups and downs and things like that. And of course there's people in my life that I've known for 6 months or a year, people I work with, we seem to get along very well. They're good friends. But will they always be a good friend? I mean, that's when their life moves on, I suppose that's the question, as to whether you've made a sufficient impact in their psyche that they want to stay in contact with you. And I'd like to be able to say yes, but we all know that people drift off when lifestyles change. When I look back at the friendships, I'll talk about all three, but when I look back at the friendships that are very long-standing, 20, 30 years, there's one thing that shines through in all of them, and that is that I do not pressure their boundaries and they do not pressure mine. In other words, I place no expectation on them or obligation, and they do not do the same to me. In other words, we accept each other for who we are, what we are, warts and all, and we are therefore able to discuss things like feelings, emotions, fears, doubts, dreams, all the usual stuff that men don't like talking about. And these people in particular obviously, how can I put it to you? Well, when the time comes and either they've got to depart this world or I've got to depart this world, it will be very difficult for both of us. And I'm going to have to prepare myself for this day. The ones in the middle that I've known for 5 years, and some of these people I do imagine that I can foresee that I will know them forever. But like I said, it's yet to be tested, yet to be proven. I guess you could say those relationships are in a limbo. I can't say categorically that, oh, no, we're blood brothers, whatever you want to call it, whatever terminology you want to use. I can't say that because they haven't been tested, but I can't say that they're not either. So they're still a little bit in limbo. I've got nothing negative to say about them, any of them. They're very, very good friends, but there is just something about a very long-standing friendship that stood the test of time and the ups and downs. There is just no substitute for it. You cannot buy it. You cannot wish it into existence. It's either there or it's not.
Yeah.
And the friends that I have that I've had for 5 years or thereabouts, I guess you could say we haven't been through sufficient ups and downs to really know what the friendship's about.
My grandmother used to have a saying when it comes to friends that there are people in your life who will be what she called fair weather friends. So in other words, the weather's fine, and everyone's happy and the friendship's great. But when the weather turns bad, well, they're nowhere to be seen. And there's a number of people who I've known in the past who have been fair weather friends. And on that topic of fair weather friends, I think it's one of the most insightful things that I saw over in Thailand. It was actually a news segment, and it was about the homeless men in Pattaya. And one of them said something interesting. He said, "Yeah, I came over here, and I got to drinking, and I was going out in the nightlife, and I got involved with some prostitutes, and I lost all my money. And the people back home in the UK, my former friends, they wouldn't even send me £5. Just think about that for a moment. Just think about the implications of that. Now, anyone in my life, if they went overseas and they got into trouble, I don't care what the trouble is, as long as it's not something which is of a completely extreme nature, I would help them out. I would send them money, and I would try to get them help where it was needed. I mean, if they're on the streets anywhere, then they're in extreme need of help. But I think
I would help them to help themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I may not be so inclined to send them a lump sum payment because that may not be helping them.
Exactly, right? That's right. And that the level of assistance that you're going to need.
That's right. I would offer to help them to help themselves out of that situation. But while we're talking about grandmothers, my grandmother, beautiful person, very dear memories of this lady. She, full of kindness, full of love. She lived for nothing more than to love her grandchildren, I guess you could say. And she's passed away now, and I got talking with her in the closing stages about friendship. And I said to her, and she died in her mid-90s, so she'd seen quite a lot of the world. And I said to her one day about friendship, I said, all your friends, I've noticed all your friends, you talk about what you experienced together during the Great Depression. And she said, yes. She said, we needed each other, and we got to find out who the person really was, I guess you could say. And she actually had very fond memories of the Depression. okay, they never had any money and they got through it the best way they could. But she said she learned more about people in those times than the rest of her life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? And I guess, then that saying comes to mind, a friend in need is a friend indeed. Right? Now,
And I've had friends come to me in my life whilst they've been in extreme need, and that has been the case. Their friendship has been strengthened by me being able to help the person, and they've been very appreciative of the help that I've offered them at those times.
I guess the real question is whether it's reciprocal. If it's one way, it's narcissistic. If it's two ways, it's a great friendship.
Yeah.
And I've helped many friends through difficult times. Some it has strengthened the friendship, and those difficult times were sometimes my difficult times too. Sometimes it has strengthened the friendship. At other occasions, it's given them a good excuse to have a falling out with me. You lend someone a few $100, they either pay it back or they come up with a reason as to why they shouldn't have to pay it back. There's not really much in the middle.
Yeah.
And I guess that is friendships, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm not bitter about it. For a few $100, I got to find out whether this person was a friend at all. It was worth every cent.
Yeah, that's right.
I think, getting back to the original topic of discussion, which is the importance of male friendships, women bond at a different level to men, at a more emotional level. They share things, they share emotions, and friendship seems to come a lot easier to women, in the circle of women. Male friendships between other males, I'm talking about, is a more difficult thing.
Well, it has to be, because we're in competition with one another, right?
I was about to say that, because you're dealing with the male ego, and a man is not really a man. A man is what he pretends to be.
A man is defined by his actions.
That's right. What they pretend to own, they pretend to have, what they pretend to have done. It's the image of a man, I guess you could say. And the moment you have close friends in your life and you have to drop all that image and all that pretense and all that theatrics, as Shakespeare said, the world is but a stage.
And show vulnerability or share vulnerability.
The moment you have to drop all that and actually let a person into your mind, that is a huge step. And as a result, male friendships are more valuable than gold. And if another male opens up to you and tells you about what's going on in their mind, and hence in their world, that is more rare than it is common. I had an interesting experience in recent months. A guy who I work with, who remained anonymous, his mother passed away, I think maybe a year or 2 years ago or something like that. And he's been having a little bit of a tough time with it, a little bit depressed. And I have reached out to him and tried to connect with him at a psychological, emotional level. And I've spoken to him about grief, what he's feeling, the feelings of guilt that he's got, things like this. And as a result, we have a good friendship, a very good friendship. Will it stand the test of time? I don't know. I'll tell you in another decade. He made a comment to me just 2 weeks ago. He said to me, "You do realise I've made more progress with you in the last month than I've made with a psychologist in the last 3 years."
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I said to him, "Well, when I ask you how you are, I ask because I care. I care about you. And I can feel the pain that you're in. It's not that you're paying me to listen, and that's the difference, right? Now, he said to me recently, he said, you know, for the first time in my life, I've been able to admit to someone else I'm faulted. How much of a male trait is that?
Well,
Right?
you know, he felt safe enough to I guess, to be vulnerable and to express his true feelings with you.
Well, there's no judgments from me. There never is about anything. There's no judgments from me. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and one thing I do not do is pass judgment on another human being under any circumstances. You don't know. You don't know what's going through their mind and their world. You're not walking in their shoes. It's very, very easy to pass judgment, which basically makes you feel good at another person's expense. I don't do that. My ego doesn't need to do that. My question to others is, are you okay? Are you healthy? Is your world one which you are at peace with? And most people, if they drop their guard just for a little bit, they say, well, I'm struggling. We're all struggling. The question is whether you pretend not to struggle. And I guess that is what true friendship is really about. It's about, can you admit to another your faults?
That's right, and I think it should be noted that your Myers-Briggs type is the counsellor, and
Yes.
you know, many of our viewers would have seen the Matrix movies, and you know, the importance of the Oracle, and you know, Morpheus taking Neo to see the Oracle, and the Oracle, she sort of existed on a different sort of plane. She had a level of consciousness that allowed her to see things and have a degree of insight which other people didn't have. And I think that's your gift. You exist on that different plane where, because of your particular type and the way that you are, you can see, you have that level of insight that others just don't have. And I think anyone who comes within your sphere of influence can see and they can experience that. And I know with some of the contact and the emails that we've gotten from our viewers, they can see that too, with a number of them saying, does Stephen have his own YouTube channel? So it's very interesting.
It's coming.
Yeah.
I think we all want to be able to be who we really are. One of the biggest problems with humanity, and especially males, is what we do and who we are vastly different people. And therein lies the pain, pretending to be something that you're not. I'm not interested in what car you've just bought. I'm not interested in how much your shares are worth. I'm not interested in where you live, what wealth you have. I'm not interested in any of this sort of stuff. I actually like to get to know people, the actual person, not what they claim to be. Now, you know, in the words of Shakespeare, give a man a mask and he will tell you anything. We human beings do not like being honest with each other, especially males. I've never met anyone that has bought shares that have gone down. I've never met anyone that had a car accident and it was their fault. You very rarely meet anyone who ever made a mistake.
Well, it's very hard for people to admit responsibility and to be accountable and to go on the record with accountability as well. And these are things that certain people have the ability to do, and other people, it's just not a part of who they are. It's not a part of their makeup. I mean, you could try to teach people, but yet there are other types who they are extremely responsible, extremely accountable, and will fess up to their mistakes and will admit them on the public record and try to go forward. You know.
Well, that takes a lot of
guts.
No, more than guts. It takes you've got to go through a series of awakenings. And I'm not saying enlightenment, because that's a very different thing again. You've got to go through a series of awakenings that can only be brought on by pain, and excessive pain at that, to be able to say, you know what, I'm human, I make mistakes, I'm probably more faulted than others, but I'm okay with it. I can admit it.
Yeah.
To see yourself as some sort of image of perfection, everything you touch turns to gold, it's delusion. Because life is just not like that. The question is whether you can admit it or not. That's the real question. I am not interested in having any power over any other person. So anyone can tell me anything, and I will not use it against them. And I guess that's what separates me from others. And I cast no judgments, and as a result, people do tend to tell me what's at the core of their pain, I guess you could say.
And it's interesting because I met you at a period of my life where I was at a crossroads, and
come on, your life's always been perfect.
I was in a place where I had to make an important decision on whether I was going to stay engaged, get married, or to break up and with my fiance and go on a different path. And I was right on the precipice, so to speak. And I was introduced to yourself through another friend who I sort of opened up to. And it's interesting. He brought me to you, and we developed this friendship. And I guess through our discussions, I've been able to accelerate my understanding. That's how I feel that our friendship has benefited me, and the importance of our friendship, that I've reached a level of awareness which I wouldn't have reached without, say, an extra 10 years. And that's the thing. Being able to accelerate that has been important to me, because I can have effects on the world 10 years earlier than what I could have if the friendship hadn't have developed.
A lot of males waste the best years of their life trying to be something or pretending to be something that they were never going to be. And it's actually a tragedy, because it robs them of very valuable time at the best years of their life, I guess you could say. And it's quite sad that people feel that they cannot be themselves. And I guess what we're really talking about is some sort of psychological slavery, obligations, shame, guilt, that has been brainwashed into their minds from everything from society to family to friends to religion. The list goes on and on and on. Basically being told what to think and what to do. And eventually the penny drops and the person says, I'm not doing this anymore. This is what we call a midlife crisis, by the way.
Or an awakening within
Or an awakening,
matrix.
that's right. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm living my life how I want it to be, and other people's opinion is no longer relevant.
Yeah.
And I guess the message for our listeners is this. When you can see your value as a person, all your friendships and relationships are in trouble, because they are all built on an undervalued sense of self. And I live my life, and the friendships that I have is I don't overvalue them and I don't undervalue them. In fact, there is no value. They are friendships. And we are human beings. Just be who you are.
To thine self be true.
Sorry, it was...
To thine self be true.
That's right. Thine self be true. And we we are human beings. We just need to be. We are not human doers or human providers. And that seems to be the underlying foundation stones of most friendships, is what value you can add through your actions or your possessions. And I've watched this with a friend of mine, someone who he knew. This person got themselves into a little bit of trouble with the law, and he emptied out all of his friends and started making friends with lawyers and retired police officers and things like this, thinking that these people could get him off the hook for what he had done. And he just turned his back on all of his friends that couldn't provide this service to him. And it really showed me everything I needed to know about this person. He's narcissistic. He's a user.
Yep.
When you can provide your own needs, or you are prepared to go to work and provide your own needs, friendship has a very different meaning to those who choose not to go that road. And I guess now more than ever, the definition of the word friendship is varied.
Yeah.
Now more than ever.
Yeah. I think if I think about the importance of our friendship, putting, I guess, the value that we've created by coming together, becoming friends, discussing a whole range of issues, that's led to our YouTube channel and to us being in the public eye and us, looking outwards to try to help others, to use our, understanding of life and to try to help others who are going through difficult times in their life. And, I'm not a counsellor, but I recognised very early on in our friendship that I could help you to get you out there in the public eye, even if I myself am not the best person to be giving advice. And at
doing okay. You're doing okay.
And at some point, I recognised that it would almost certainly be other people who are asking for you and for your advice and for what you have to give to others. And
I don't have all the answers. I've made my share of mistakes like everybody else. The difference is, I suppose, that I don't like to make them again.
Yeah.
They call that wisdom.
And learning from the mistakes of others is important to become wise.
That's right. I mean, there's a huge difference between knowledge and wisdom, but not very many people know the difference.
Yeah.
It's when I look back at my life and the definition of the word friendship. It's been a sort of how can I put it? It's been a difficult issue to overcome because accepting people for what they are seems too good to be true, so that can cause friction. In terms of relationships, I would not be in a relationship with another person that I couldn't be very good friends with. And this has caused its own set of problems, I guess you could say, because clearly relationships are anything other than friendships. They're more of a question of needs and things like that. Having said that, I am in an extremely good relationship with a person that I am very, very good friends with, and I don't tell them what to think, and she certainly doesn't tell me what to think, and that is the cornerstone of the relationship, is this mutual respect that we have for each other's thoughts and identity as a person. However, like everybody else, I've got my share of horror stories where people have tried to tell me what to think. And, doesn't end well with me. I can't imagine it would end very well with you either, Clarke, somehow.
Certainly not. No, it's an INTJ. I'm the most independent of all the Myers-Briggs types, and I guess, just the way that I am, I find it very difficult to be under control by anyone else, and that's led me to a whole host of problems in my life, and
I bet it has.
you know,
I bet it has.
I tell you,
But,
I've had a
yes.
16-year career in IT in a place which really my independence of mind, it could have went very differently
Oh,
based on
yes.
my interest from university, and yeah, it would have been a completely different life that I would have had for myself if I had went in a different path. But mm,
Interesting stuff.
mm,
I suppose, wrapping it all up and bringing the show to a close, the message I'd like to send to our viewers is this. The only friendships that are friendships are those where there are no needs involved.
mm,
In other words, it is your choice to be acquainted with that person. It's not a question of what you need them for, and
mm,
vice versa.
mm,
They are really the only friendships that are friendships. And what you've got to understand about humanity is most people don't have friends. They have customers.
mm. I think you've made some excellent points there, and I guess I'd like to leave our viewers with the thought that if you really think about it, when the chips are down and you're down and out, there's probably only a handful of people in your life that you could be pretty sure would help you, and even out of them, don't be so
I
certain.
think a handful is being generous.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think if the chips were really down,
Yeah,
and if you had 2 or 3 people that would help you without doubt, without judgment, I think you would be a very lucky person.
yeah, agreed.
And there's an old saying: go through a crisis so that your friends can walk out and your true friends can walk in.
Yeah, yeah,
And you don't really know. You don't know anyone until you've been through a crisis and seen how they've responded to that crisis. And there's an old saying: any man that hasn't experienced love, hate, estrangement, grief, he must have died young.
yeah.
And these things wait for all of us, and they test friendships as to whether they really exist or not. Was it a friendship or was it an imagination?
Mm.
That's the question.
A friend of mine, we often talk about what we'd do if we won the lottery, and he's got all this. I know he would go completely crazy and end up broke, and any money he tried to give me, I'd say, look, I'm not interested in your money. I don't want any of it, and I wouldn't accept any money from him. I wouldn't accept any gifts or any kind of money for any reason from him if he ever won the lottery. I would just simply say to him, look, I want what's best for you, and I'm not here for I've been here in times when you've been down and out, and I'll be here in times of greatness for you, but I would find it very difficult to take part in your self-destruction, and that's that's what it would lead to this person. So,
I had a situation like that was similar. A person did win some money, not a huge amount of money, but they won some money, and I actually said to them, "Give me a ring when it's all gone." Right, and surprise, surprise, didn't take long,
yeah.
and there's only one thing worse than having money, and that's not having money.
Yeah.
And they did ring me when it was all gone.
Yeah.
And the only money worth having is that you struggled for.
Yeah.
And you want to know the value of a dollar, you've got to earn about 3 to be left with 1.
Yeah.
And every individual has to work that out for themselves, that money can't make you happy, but it can sure make you miserable.
It's very true. And on that point, that note, we'll leave you there, and I look forward to catching up next time.
Thank you, and talk to you once again. Thank you.
All the best, everyone.